Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I am happy to introduce you to our guest today, Jeanne Burbage from Canada. Hey, Jeanne.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. So tell me a little bit about where you're from and about the unique coloring book that you've produced.
Delighted to tell you about that. I'm from a city of approximately 250, 300,000 on the prairies. It's called Saskatoon in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada. If you just, for the Americans in the audience, if you just go to North Dakota, and we're right across the border from there. Very varied province with a lot of wonderful resources. So my book is, do you want me to go straight into talking about my book?
Sure. Tell me all about your book and how it was inspired. I think you have an interesting story about your inspirations behind your book.
Well, the name of my book is the Zenimaginarium Garden. And I've been doing calligraphy, I've been doing line art for 35 years. And I was starting to get into Zentangle inspired art. What I would do, would put pieces of my art on Facebook groups. And somebody said, you should create a coloring book. And at that point in time, that was a year ago, January of 2014, I had no idea what a coloring book for adults was. I started doing some research. I looked around at some of the things I had created recently, and I went, oh, I'm going to do a garden with gnomes, whatever. And it just kind of grew from there. So that was my theme, and then I was trying to come up with a name. And the Zenimaginarium title, which will be my ongoing theme, every book I will create from now will have that Zenimaginarium as part of its title. It will be kind of a trademark, as will be the cover design, part of the cover design. Zen is a hats off to the Zentangle movement, but it's also an important acknowledgement of what our son has taught me about meditation, about Zen. The Imaginarium part of it then becomes imagination, and the Arium part has a kind of, I was thinking of the cranium where everything is stored, and the long story is my husband is an incredible cook, and for years we always called his hamburgers JB's Hamburger Emporium. So I've kind of given tribute to my son. I've given tribute to, in a sense, to my own imagination and to my husband, this is the most important people in my life.
Oh, that's really beautiful. You have kind of a unique situation. You are not a self-published author. You actually have a publisher. So tell me about how you became an author with a publisher, because many people, of course, in the coloring book space, they use CreateSpace or some other type of self-publishing method. So tell me about how you got your publisher or found your publisher.
Oh, you know how there are no real things called coincidences. Things just happen and fall into place for a reason. We had a jewelry business, and we were at a trade show last April, and I was in the process of searching for a publisher. And I had not heard of CreateSpace at that point in time. Right next to us, in the booth right next to us, was a small publishing firm from our capital city in our province. And I started to chat with them. They had never heard of coloring books for adults either. They went back to their hotel the first night after I showed them some images that were on my phone. And they came back and said, we would really like to do this for you and with you. Would be a first for them, and they were really excited about being on the ground floor of what was going on in this coloring book business in Canada, and especially in our part of Canada. And so that was in April. I had most of the artwork done for the book by then. By June the 10th, fast forward, the books were coming off the printer, and the printer is also a local printer. And all of those things have been really important to me. Supporting local and provincial, businesses. That was. It's a really big thing where I live, where you support local people, and my sales have been in the bookstores have been high because of that, because people will find out that I'm a local artist, and they love that, and they will support me and buy my books, and then they're always happy with them. Apparently, they enjoy the artwork, and so that was one of those most happy coincidences, or however God instances that you might. And they are wonderful. She then helped me by doing that route, more traditional route. She arranged TV interviews for me in our local market. She did the first round of book signings for me, got me introduced to the stores. My books got into all the stores in kind of the three western provinces, on either east and west of where I live. And those are huge things that create space at Amazon, although they go into a larger market, but you're amongst, you're unknown there. And by going through a publisher who then goes through the representative of a large book chain, you have, in my world, it's better exposure.
So you're in a lot of different bookstores, and also your books can be found in different hospitals, art stores, and even at the local or the international airport.
Yes.
Oh, that is really unique. So in your experience, your publisher actually helped a lot with the initial marketing of your books.
Absolutely.
So is your book also available through Amazon or any other online source?
It's online on my website. It was on Amazon. I noticed it's currently unavailable. And right now I'm not, I need to talk to my publisher about that, as to what happened over that. But it's a difficult situation. She just lost her husband a few months ago. And I just lost this.
You're fine.
Okay. And she's going through a really, really difficult time. And I don't want to push her about a lot of these things. She's got to deal with her grief. And again, that's another thing that I'm try to respect her space. When it's the right time, I will talk to her about it again. And we will get Amazon.ca up and running. I don't know whether it'll ever get on Amazon.com and more widespread. That's I'm not sure just how we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing about Amazon is obviously you have the .com and then the opportunities to be in different countries and everything. But I think what makes your situation very unique is that the fact that you are in so many physical or brick and mortar bookstores. That is something that any author or coloring book author publisher could always look at as, that is an avenue to examine. Obviously you have the online space, but there's also opportunity for your books to be in a brick and mortar bookstore or art show or hospital, gift shops and things like that. So that's kind of eye-opening to realize that your books have the potential of not only being bought online, but they can also be bought in a physical space. Do you think that there are health benefits to coloring books, or why do you think that adults are so excited about coloring books now?
Um, I can speak from either anecdotal comments, and I can speak from research that I did. Anecdotal comments people have told me directly is a friend who was given my book, who had suffered from depression for years and years and years and years, had been treated by her psychiatrist for years. This friend sent her a copy of my book. This lady had grabbed my hands, both my hands that day, and she was telling me the story, and she started to cry. And she said, "My friend is so much better." She said she went to see her psychiatrist, and he said, "What are you doing? I've never seen you like this. You are totally different." And she explained that she was doing some coloring. He said, "Keep it up." And the friend is literally crying, holding my hands, telling me about that. I had another anecdotal where somebody commented that when she was in a hospital with an incident with high blood pressure, a nurse literally handed her a coloring book and some crayons. And while she was coloring, her blood pressure came down. So those are anecdotal things that I've heard. A lot of the Facebook groups that I belong to, coloring books, people have talked about during grief, how it calms them down. My own publisher is actually now coloring my book.
Wow.
Because she's dealing with the grief of losing her husband. And she said, "This is helping me." Her comments, you will see them. I think I posted them on my Zenimaginarium Facebook page. So those are anecdotal from real people that I've met and know. So I know people with PTSD use them, people with fibromyalgia who have high pain use books as a kind of distraction from the pain. So there's all of those things. I know that I've read that physical therapists, for veterans, have used them to restore fine motor skills, cognition, visual tracking skills. So there's a lot of recovering from strokes and traumatic brain injuries. Those are not anecdotal that I have. Those are research things that I have learned from that. So those are kind of I talk about it as being body, mind, spirit. And those are kind of the body things and spirit things that I've heard about or read about, have anecdotal comments about. Another lady I've in contact with who says when she colors for a few minutes before she goes to bed, she has a better night's sleep. That's an anecdotal. There's also scientific research done on that as well, about how our brain waves. We're working almost always on our beta brain waves. And to get to your best sleep, you need to move to your alpha brain waves, which the coloring helps you move. And then now you're ready for sleep. And then you get into your your theta and delta brainwaves, where you get your best sleep. So those are scientific research that has done. I'm not too sure whether. Apparently it relaxes the amygdala, the fear center of the brain, and allows your mind to get the rest it needs. So it helps banish anxiety for the brief time that you're coloring.
So you've provided some really good both anecdotes and also the scientific research information. So I appreciate that because you gave a broad spectrum of different things. And most people who love coloring, that's what they say. They say it helps me to relax, which when you relax, yes, your brain waves slow down and you go into the nice alpha waves where that's your creative part of the brain. So do you like to color yourself? And if you do, what's your favorite way to color?
I don't color as much as I was in the hospital last week, and I took my own book with me. I was having some overnight tests done, and a little bit of anxiety about that. So I took my coloring book with me, and I'm happier drawing than I am coloring. But I do like to color. It's just when I get to the point at night where I want to relax, I will draw, I will do some Zentangle, or I will do even some exercising or meditation. So I do a whole range of things. So coloring is just one of the things that I use. So yes, I like it, but it's not my main number one go-to to relax.
So do you when you do color, what do you like to use? Which medium?
Okay, yeah, you asked that earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't answer that. My favorite are colored pencils or watercolor pencils, depending on the size of the spaces that I'm coloring. Sometimes I will use markers, Sharpie, ultrafine. I have those around. Sometimes I will use, I don't have a lot of expensive tools. Yeah, I don't have the polychromos that people love. I have old-fashioned stuff that's been around for a long time. And so I go with that, something I'm comfortable with. So I would say colored pencils. I want to say pencil crayons because of my age and where I'm in life. Watercolor pencils. I really love blending watercolor pencils. Sharpie markers, gel pens. I do like working with the gel pens, but I'm always afraid I'm going to run out of color. I'm very careful with that. I'm very thrifty. I don't like to spend money when I don't have to.
Well, I know that you also talked about pastel chalks. When I was a child, I used to use pastels a lot. I enjoyed that, the pastel chalk.
Well, what I did, I had an old Stampin' Up kit that had pastels in it, and I went, oh, I can use those with a Q-tip or something, especially for backgrounds, or you can do some blending. And I went, do I still have it? And I went and got it out, and I really enjoy that because it creates a very lovely, soft background, particularly. It's a little harder to get into detail with those, but that's true. I have experimented with those. I experiment with kind of what I have. Being a lettering artist for 35 years, experimenting with a number of different things. I have a lot of leftover items. And so then I will go pull something out of my drawers that I hoarded away for a number of years. And I will give it a go. I've worked with acrylics. So I use a lot of different things.
So I know a lot of people, when they color, they might want to keep it as a keepsake or make it into a wall hanging or a bookmark or whatever, or give it as a gift. If you could give me 3 tips for our listeners about how to get the best results when you're coloring, I'd really appreciate that.
Well, if I was doing this, I would take the page and I would take it up to a printer, and I would have it printed on some pretty high quality paper. if they could get some watercolor paper, if I was going to do watercolor, I would like it as a gift. I want it on more than just coloring book paper. So I would get it copied onto something that's really high quality paper, maybe multimedia paper. Then I would use some high quality markers or whatever you like to use. But I would check, before I did anything with that and chose it, I would check the light fastest. So I would do a sample of something, put it in the light, and let it see how it goes at 30 days or 60 days. Because I know people want to give things away right away. But you don't want to give away a gift and then have the person hang it up, and it's going to fade away and be gone. And I guess that comes from my calligraphy days, using high quality inks that are light fast. So those would be two of my things. Check out your materials. Check out how light fast they are. Under glass, not under glass. High quality paper to work on. You can cut them out and give them as gifts, frame them. They're designed, most books are designed that way. Mine is designed that way. I don't think that's 3. I think that's 2. Those would be my first things.
Well, and also another thing that is important for everybody to note, and I want to just bring this up, is make sure that if you copy someone's art, number one, that you don't sell it, because that is not, you would then be violating the copyright law on that. But if you're copying it for your own use to color and, to give as a gift, that would probably be okay under the fair use. So when in doubt, always check with the author of the book too.
You're right. And there's a huge big thing about copyright these days. People are stealing images left, right, and center and saying it's okay. In this case, if you're not selling it, as I understand copyright in Canada and in the US, if you are copying it for your own use or giving it as a gift, then there's not a problem. But if you claim it, of course, as your own, or you try to sell it as, this is what I produced, I'm selling it, then there's a major problem. Or giving it away, making multiple, say you go and make 25 copies and hand them out to a coloring room. Well, that's illegal, So there are some fine line. People do need to be aware of what they're doing. Some people just say, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want. I will take whatever I want. If it's stealing, so be it. They don't understand, as some people have said repeatedly, that the artists do have bills to pay. And without the artists, you wouldn't have these. So support them.
Good advice. And also, I do know that I've talked to some artists, and they actually make group coloring books so that they have maybe 10 images of the same image, and the book is specifically designed for group parties. So I talked to someone who said, yeah, they'll make a book and maybe they'll have a selection of images and they'll give 10 copies of that image so that you could have a party. So obviously you could buy more than one copy of the book if you're planning to use it that way. So there's a lot of things. And I think that most colorists, their intent is not to steal the art, but they don't understand that, especially people when they pull it off the internet, they have this idea that if it's on the internet, it must be available. Well, no, it's not available for your use. It's on the internet because the artist, author, illustrator is typically marketing their books in an online atmosphere. So with that idea, do you think that the adult coloring book concept, do you think it's a fad or is it here to stay?
I wasn't sure when I started out about this. And the more, like I've done a lot of book signings. I do a lot of book signings at the bookstores in the city where I live. And so I've chatted with a lot of people about this. And there's been a lot of closet colorers who've colored for years. And I've met people that have said, oh, I've been coloring for years. But now there's something that I've colored children's books, and now there's something that's actually for me to color as an adult. So I see those people, and those people who are, in their 70s that I've talked to in wheelchairs, or I'm talking to 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and I love to color. Well, if there's a 19-year-old who's still loving to color, and there's a 70-year-old who is still loving to color, it seems to, and 9-year-olds who love to color, it is generational. And I see it going on because people are, what I was talking earlier about the scientific research, and people who again, in my research, companies who use it, executives who use it with their staffs as a way to start a meeting. Yes, I think it's going to carry on. I do. We're having a saturation of the market right now, and I think the people who are producing poor quality books, their images they're just cranking them out, they're going to fall by the wayside because people are going to stop buying poor quality things. Most of the people that I talk to when I'm doing book signings and the managers, bookstore managers, they're looking for the quality stuff now. So I think good quality books will continue. Some of the ones who are just out there for a quick buck may hang around, may not. It's hard to say.
Well, that's the perfect segue for us to talk about the business side of coloring books. So I've often toyed with that idea, like many people. I see it and I say, wow, maybe I could do that. So if I wanted to create a coloring book or coloring pages, what would you suggest I do to get started?
My first question to you is, do you have a background in any kind of visual arts?
And my answer would be, well, kind of. Or I can't honestly say I'm an artist, but I figure that I see there's different things that I could do possibly, or work with an artist even, if I wanted to do that. Or I could use computer-generated mandalas. I've seen those, where you can make those.
That's true. So if you are wanted to do computer generated, then yes, go for it. You could definitely do that. I'm on that side of things. There are, again, people who I've talked to at book signings say, I don't like that something is perfect. They like to see that there are maybe some flaws in it, that one line is not perfectly straight, that they know that the artist just hadn't done it themselves. So there are those people who are looking for a good quality image, but they know that it's been handmade. If I think you have to have some kind of background, or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. My belief is that you should have some kind of background. Mine was my calligraphy, my lettering art. I have done that for years. I've incorporated art that I could do into calligraphy commissions if I was able. If I couldn't, I would say to my customer, that's not something that I have the skills to do. So I'm really not sure. I think I would recommend somebody go take a Zentangle class, because I think that's one of things that the folks who started Zentangle have really helped bring out is the creative side of people that they didn't know they had.
Zentangle. Okay. I have a question. Drilling into, let's say, the marketing and business side. Um, if you're forming a business, did you actually go and create like an LLC or a corporation? What do you suggest that people get that deep into it?
If you're ethical when you come to tax time, you need to have some kind of business license. And that helps you when it comes to tax time. So we've had a jewelry business operating under the name Burbage Boutique since 2009. And it's dissolving not because of our doing, but because the designer passed away and the company is dissolving in California. So my Burbage Boutique as a business, and prior to that, Calligraphy by Jeanne as a business, always had a business license through the city. So I could buy that. I can claim a lot of my house expenses on that, my internet expenses. Now that it's Burbage Boutique, it will encompass, I'm going to keep that Burbage Boutique because Calligraphy by Jeanne operates under that auspices. And now my art lines and designs by Jeanne operate under that umbrella. And so now I'm registered with the city as a business license. I'm registered with the province and our federal government. So in all aspects, then my accountant can claim a ton of my expenses. And then you're paying your taxes to, each level that you need to pay. But also, you're also getting a lot of tax benefits. And I end up getting from the federal government, I file quarterly and I get money back because of my expenses. And if you're going to operate as a business, I'm a firm believer, operate within the laws of wherever you are, and it will benefit you.
I think that's really good advice because in the United States also, and obviously you're talking from the Canadian perspective, and there's different countries around the world, but I know in the United States that a business does get many benefits. They call them tax write-offs. So rather than operate as like a hobby, you should act like a real business, and it is not that difficult to be either a C corporation or a individual corporation or have an LLC. So that is something I think you're right about. Make sure that you check into all your local laws and get the licensing required, because I think the benefits are going to outweigh the costs on that. You mentioned doing some television interviews and book signings, and I want you to talk a little bit about that. How did you go about getting using this type of marketing? And were you prepared, for example, when you did your television interviews, how difficult was that for your publisher to get you booked? And were you able to tell people, go here to get my book, or did you put it together with your book signings? How did your television interviews all work out? I think our audience would be really interested in learning more about that.
Well, as part of my initial package with my publisher, those are, and what I paid her is 50 hours of promotional work. So she has contacts because of her ongoing 30 years publishing books with TV stations. So she, CTV is Canadian television company, broadcasting. So she just called up the one in Saskatoon and said, I have this book, and would you like to interview the artist? And they said, they set up the time. She also set one up in the city where they live. And so she set up the time. She had the contacts to do that because she does it regularly. She does interviews herself on TV about new books that they publish. So that's a communication route that she took care of. And we practiced over the phone. She would ask me questions, and we would practice the first interview. And yes, I had a chance to talk about where my book could be bought, and they were very short interviews. Kind of didn't get a lot of time to do a lot of information, but I know people came out. If I was having a book signing that day, people would come. Oh, I saw you on TV at lunchtime. I'm here to buy your book at the book signing because I heard you were here. And so that's what she helped with the book signings. With the books, she again made those arrangements, the initial ones, with all the bookstores within my city and one major one in the city where she resides. And from there, I am free to go back into any of those bookstores, talk to the managers and say, you know what, you want to do another, book signing? And yeah, we haven't done one since November. Let's do another one. And because I now have the contacts, I can walk in, talk to them, and say, what do you think? And we go from there.
That's really good information, because a lot of people don't realize that the big hook or the big angle for local television stations is you are a local author and you've created this book and you're going to have a book signing, and that is local news of the day. So that is a really golden opportunity. And then, like you said, you can leverage those people at the bookstores or at the television station because you develop a relationship with them once you've done the initial interview and the first book signing. So that's really good advice. So if we want to find out more about you and your services, where can we go find you online?
Well, you can go to my website, which is Zentastic Lines and Designs. I had to add the Zentastic because Lines and Designs was already taken. And it's Zentastic Lines and Designs, all one word, .ca, because I'm in Canada. So that's my website. You could also, burbageboutique.com will have, I'm transitioning away from my jewelry into, that will also be a platform. Zenimaginarium on Facebook is kind of promotes, and I have a lot of information about my book there. A group that I have started almost 2 years ago called Lines and Designs on Facebook, where we do not promote books. I don't even promote my own book on there. It's not a selling place, but it's a fun group that there are just awesome people in the group who share incredible things. I have some things on Etsy under the name Zenimaginarium, some things on Zazzle under Zenimaginarium, named for my shop. There is a YouTube video of my book. If you just search my name, Jeanne Burbage, that will come up. There's a video that is a flip through of my book, so that people, if they're any way before they buy it, they will see the images through the flip out. And then they know what they're getting. It's not hidden. It's not a problem. On the Facebook Zenimaginarium, you will see a lot of pages that people have colored and they've sent me, so that I can put them on a page, so you can see what some of the colored pages look like that other people have colored.
Great. Well, thanks, Jeannie. I really appreciate you taking all the time you did with me today. And I especially really appreciate the information about the marketing aspects and the business aspects and getting to know you a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tammy. It was a delight.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a great day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.